Her handwriting looks vaguely similar at best, and only now that I see it again I remember that she used to write in pink pen a lot. She was always very girly, for lack of a better term. But she was also quite fragile. I never knew if I liked this aspect of her or not, though with the arrival of this letter, that question seems to have become largely moot. The letter begins with not much more than an update of the state of things going on in her life. My old class had a good start to the school year, many are anxious about the exams that will be coming up in the future, etc. But it ends on a very personal, if brief, note. It feels a bit like she wrote most of the letter just to try and soften the blow from the ending. I wanted to somehow express my feelings, but the right words didn't come to me. I couldn't say anything to comfort you. I'm really sorry for not being able to support you when it mattered most. Even though I like you so much, at least now, finally, I can be more honest. If I could go back to those quiet days on February and March, I'd tell you not to give up on yourself. That's what I'd say. Maybe you wouldn't have drifted so far if I had just said something. I hope you managed to get back on your feet on your own. Now that the distance between us is also physical, it almost also feels more final somehow. I wonder if we will meet again. Perhaps it's for the best if we don't. Still, if you'd like to correspond with me, by all means write me back. I'd very much like to hear about your new school and how you are doing. I wish you all the best. Sincerely, Iwanako. And so that's that. Our relationship is over. Nice, neat and tidy with no ambiguity. I hadn't held on to any illusions that it could ever begin anew. The last time she visited me, neither of us said a thing, except for one word she left as she said for the last time, goodbye. Be that as it may, this feels more final. The capstone of experiment that both of us tried and failed at. A loud shout draws my eyes away from the letter. It's just some students horsing around, with one of the teachers standing nearby coming over to talk to them. Are you okay? A tentative voice comes from my side. For a moment, I assume it to be Hanako, but it's actually Yuko. Hello, Yuko. I thought you'd be in the library. She gives a cheerful smile, one quite fitting the atmosphere, and flourishes the empty wrapper of a roll in her hand. She must have someone else covering for her while she grabs something to eat. It reminds me that I haven't had anything to eat yet. I don't feel hungry though, and skipping one lunch won't hurt. Mind if I sit here? Sure, go ahead. I quickly slide the letter back into its envelope, slipping it inside my bag propped against the side of the bench as Yuko takes a seat. She drops the wrapper into a bin beside us. Without much else to do, I lean back and take what enjoyment I can from the sun, silently reflecting on the letter. The lush lawns, the clear blue skies, everything looks so different from the way it did back then. Even the school's surroundings, from the hill it's on to the woods around it, are completely opposite to the urban scenery I remember. Maybe this is what it's like to feel homesick. Then again, it's not outright bad sensation. The feel of the area around Yamaku, while very different, is also nice. I think I could get used to it. Hey Hisao? Yeah? You didn't answer my question from before. I wasn't going to say anything, but you still look troubled. If you don't want to say anything though, that's okay. I don't mind at all. Sorry for asking you something strange like that. I don't mind. It's just... I got a letter from someone I knew before I came to Yamaku. It made me think about some things. I thought I'd managed to get over most of the problems that my accident caused, but now I'm not really so sure. I kind of wish I'd never seen it. I don't think that's good, Hisao. When my boyfriend left me, he did so very suddenly, and never let me know why. At first I was very depressed about it, but I decided to forgive him. You forgave him? Can he at least have talked properly with you about it? He was always one of these people that found it difficult to come close to others. In the end, I decided that I fell in love with him for a reason. He was a good person, and I think if I had been in his position, I would have probably found it just as hard to try and talk to him. I don't really see the connection to the letter I got. I mean that... how should I put this? It must have been very hard for that person to send that letter, and if they did, I think they must have thought very hard about exactly what to say. Iwanako managed to write this letter and bring a final close to our relationship, something that I'd never managed to do. Whereas here I am, trying to protect and help Hanako as best I can, especially with Lily leaving for a while, and I'm not even able to deal with my own problems. Does that make sense? She's taken my non-response and furrowed brow as doubt. She really reads faces too much, just like a certain other person. Yeah, that makes sense. The letter was just kind of a shock, really. I think I tried to fool myself into thinking that my life reset when I came into Yamaku. But now I'm suddenly aware that it didn't. I'm at a bit of a loss about how to deal with these feelings. I think that's something I can't really help you with, sorry. It's fine. I think being able to talk with you helped me get things sorted out a bit better in my head, so thank you anyway. She nods and smiles sweetly. Yuko is a nice girl, so it's a shame she's highly strung so often. The school bell ringing out startles both. I was supposed to be back before the bell. Oops. She jumps off the bench and almost races off without a second word, but turns on her heel as she remembers she was just talking to me just now. I'll see you later, Hisao. Cheer up, okay? I'll try to, thanks Yuko. With a quick bow, Yuko takes her leave and begins her rush to the library. Her flight catches the curious eyes of a few passing students who are unenthusiastically trudging back to their classes after their fun. Reluctantly standing from the bench, I dust myself off and join them. Even while I walk through the gardens back to the main building, the thought of the letter in my bag doesn't stray far from my mind. The feeling of walking through the streets is one of very deep nostalgia. While Yamaku may be like the reverse of where I've lived in the past, the city at night is amazingly familiar. My eyes are moving constantly from the bright electronic screens glowing high in the night sky, to the street lamps piercing the darkness with their light, to the businessmen enjoying themselves after work and the busily talking couples on dates. Even if I didn't want to, I can't help soaking in every aspect of the city. I savour its familiarity, like a sweet candy sitting on my tongue. Lily is walking to my left with her cane swaying to and fro. To and from, I assume that means. Holding onto her sister's arm for guidance while talking to her. Compared to travelling by taxi or bus, being driven by Akira in her rather nice car was a much more enjoyable experience. Maybe not for the person on my right though. While Lily was used to her sister's driving style, and I quite liked a bit of excitement, Hanako was holding very tightly to the door for most of the trip. Everything looks so pretty at night. Hanako quickly looks down yet again as she accidentally catches someone's gaze. Yeah, it does. My answer isn't that very thoughtful, since I'm distracted by so many thoughts that I find it hard to keep up on small talk. One of those distractions aside from the city sights is how Hanako looks. This is the first time I've seen her in something other than her school uniform or her pyjamas. It gave me pause when I first saw her outfit, when we met up at the school gate. Considering how much her head is lowered when people talk near us, or walk near us, I imagine that the hat she wears is more than a fashion statement. While initially I was wary of Lily's plan to take us out into the city, when night fell it became obvious she had thought about this. Not many people have paid Hanako much heed since the darkness hides her scarring well. So, we're in the city. Any ideas on what to do? Akira beams a smile. Something tells me that she's the one who is making this particular decision, even if her sister may have proposed the outing in the first place. You'll see, just follow us. I nod and try my best to stifle a grimace. After what happened during Hanako's birthday party, I don't trust Akira's judgment all that much. We keep walking, and I notice that we're passing more and more cafes, restaurants, and other eateries. Every once in a while, a drunken man in a suit comes out of a bar, usually being supported by another, but for the most part, the customers around this part of the city look young and fashionable. Different kind of music come and go as we pass by each business, The discord created by the overlap should be grating. But it reminds me strongly of the times I spent in the city with my old friends that I don't mind. Hanako and I have started to drift a little apart from Lily and Akira. That comes to a stop when I hear a soft thud from beside me. Sorry. By the time she rights herself from her apologetic bow, the middle-aged businessman she bumped into is walking away after mumbling a half-hearted apology. Hanako looks a little put off by the experience, as she quickly skips ahead to match my pace. I notice her head hanging low once more. She probably bumped into him because she was looking downwards and not where she was going. I step to the side a little and put one hand on her far shoulder, drawing her closer. Hisao? It's okay, you can walk closer to me if you want. Hanako hesitates but eventually nods in assent. After a couple of times when I thought we had arrived at Akira's destination, we reach our target. By now we're below the elevated walkways and past the most garish and brightly lit places. I'm a bit surprised. The average age of those around us is distinctly older, and the smell of cigarette smoke is pretty thick. The area is far from seedy though, and it's a little amusing to see Lily's reaction to the smell of smoke. While it's masked by the low talking of those around us, jazz music can be heard emanating from inside. Looking up at a dimly lit sign, it becomes obvious why. A jazz club. I have to admit this isn't what I expected. Lily gives an amused snort and smile. Somehow I feel like I should have known it, Akira. As we talk outside, I notice more and more odd sideways glances directed our way. People awkwardly catch themselves staring and look away, but that just makes it more obvious. I had noticed this occasionally when we were walking, but it's more pronounced now. I've never experienced anything like this in my life. An average-looking Japanese teenage guy, just a little taller than normal, isn't the type to draw attention without making an effort. Hey, come on, just because you're teenagers doesn't mean that you can't have a taste, right? Well, I don't really mind the music, if that's what you mean. I don't mind it either. Oh, come on, everyone loves a little bit of jazz, don't they? Who doesn't like this music in the background? A little bit of jazz, although I have a more classical taste than most. She's only just managing to force the words out. It contrasts heavily to when we're alone in a Yamaku, and it disappoints me a little that she's so highly strung for what's supposed to be a good time out in the town. It's hard to read Hanako's face as she keeps looking downwards. It's a little wonder if she doesn't come out often to the city because of this, and it makes me a little thankful that my own scarring is easily hidden. Lily has a similar way of attracting people's gazes, but the reason for it is clearly different. She hardly looks like a native, and the same could be said for her sister. That much is far more noticeable than her blindness from a distance. She may not be able to see this for herself, but I have little doubt she can hear the odd whispered phrase from people who think they're out of earshot. Be that as it may, she doesn't seem to show any sign of either annoyance or pleasure at the attention. Akira is still confident as ever though. Flashing a smile, she strides in with Lily by her side and the two of us following behind. I had expected my eyes to need adjusting to the light inside, but it's not much brighter than outside. The music we'd heard is clearer now, mixed in with the sound of glasses moving on the tables and counter, and the husky chatter of the patrons looking to my right reveals the music's source, a jazz group playing beyond some tables. The patron seems to be mostly men, and though there's only a handful of women, nobody looks under 30, aside from us, of course. It feels a little like we stepped into the 1920s, and the atmosphere is quite agreeable. I'm not completely comfortable simply because of my age, but were I older, I'd probably feel quite at home. Hanako seems to be a little more relaxed now, probably due to nobody looking at her. Everybody's talking between themselves, drinking or watching the band. Akira casually takes a seat at the counter without even glancing around. She's probably come here before. Lily retracts her cane, feeling out the bar stool and the edge of her counter, before taking a seat beside her sister. The bartender takes a brief break from polishing a glass to watch her, before putting it down and coming over. Good evening, ladies. What'll it be? Just the scotch, thanks, Lily. May I have a glass of A black-suited elbow hits her side sharply. Orange juice, please. No problem, coming right up. The bartender starts to pour their drinks. A couple of seconds pass before Akira suddenly remembers that Hanako and I are indeed here and turns around to us. You two want anything, or are you just going to stand there? Hanako seems to be getting a little restless. No matter where we're going to seat ourselves, there's going to be people right next to her, and I don't think she looks convincingly older than 20, unlike Lily. Looking around, there's a game section to our right. A couple of billiards tables can be seen in the corner, and nobody's using them either. I glance at Hanako, about to ask her if she'd like to play, but she's already looking longingly in the same direction. Maybe it says something that we can get by with so few words nowadays. We'll go play pool over there. Akira leans back to see me pass before shrugging and sitting back up. It seems like you'll have to put up with only me for company. How unfortunate. Have fun, you two. We turn and set off for the abandoned corner, with Hanako taking the lead. The prospect of a nice quiet game away from everyone makes her walk noticeably faster. Her eyes stay firmly fixed on her prize. The table's full size and well lit despite the surrounding darkness, thanks to the bright overhead lights. A huge painting of something covers the walls. There aren't many people milling about this corner of the club, and I can see Hanako becoming a little less tense as a result. You know how to play? I'm no expert, but yeah, I do. Then, 8 ball? Sure. Hanako gets the chalk and 2 cues from a set of hooks against one of the walls, while I fetch the balls from the table's pockets and grab the rack from the shelf underneath. She patiently waits as I get the table set up. After slotting the final ball into the rack and doing some last-minute adjustments, I end up having to fight my perfectionist urges in getting the bottom row of balls exactly perpendicular with the edges. With the balls arranged and ready to play, I step back and take my cue from her from her outstretched arm. I carry out a quick inspection of the tip before I am satisfied that it is in good condition.